This is the Hype Squad with Charli McConnell, a podcast where women can be full of themselves and brag about what they're good at. Each week, we're going to bring you conversations covering topics like motherhood, life, relationships, business, and everything in between, because anything is possible with your very own Hype Squad. What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the Hype Squad. I'm so happy you're here. Today is a solo episode, and I wanted to take some time today to talk about I don't even really know how to say this. I want to talk about food and how it makes you feel. And are you eating shit that you shouldn't be eating? Is that even a topic? I don't know. Um, Basically, I wanted to share my experience with cutting out certain foods out of my diet and how that made my body feel. Now, I say all of that to say I'm not going to tell you to go on a diet. I'm not going to tell you, certain foods are bad for you. I'm just going to share my experience specifically with dairy. Like, fuck dairy. So, I, so let me give you some backstory. So, my entire life I have known I did not need to eat dairy, butter, cheese, ice cream, like all of the shit that's so good. I knew I didn't need to eat it. I knew every single time I ate it, my stomach was so torn up and so uncomfortable. And I basically lived 35 years of my life with a constant stomach ache. Honestly, it's funny now when I talk about it, but I didn't know what feeling good felt like because I always felt like shit. And I was always bloated. My stomach was always upset, always GI issues, uh, inflammation, like just all this kind of stuff that I could not have articulated what it was at the time. I just thought a great way for me to explain this to you is anything marketing wise that would come across that is like, have more energy, feel better, less inflammation, less bloating. I was like, yes, I need that. I feel like shit all the time. Right. And I was such easy prey to this type of marketing because I knew I felt bad. I knew I felt bad all the time and I didn't know what to do about it. And what's so funny to me and crazy, really, thinking back to it, is it was so simple, but I could not imagine my life without cheese and ice cream and butter and milk and all of these things, right? Like I couldn't even fathom it, nor would I entertain it. And so it was like, bring all of these other things into my life that could make me feel less inflamed, less bloated, more energy, all of these things, right? Give me a pill, give me something else because, girl, I ain't cutting out cheese, right? Or ranch dressing. God, no. And like literally every time we would go to a Mexican restaurant, Colby, my husband, would say, are you really going to eat all that cheese dip? Like, that's going to hurt your stomach. And I'm like, don't tell me how to live my life. Like, I'm going to eat all this shit. This is so good. I can guarantee that at least one woman out there listening to me has said that to her significant other. Like, don't come at me for what I'm eating because this is delicious and I can do whatever I want. I'm a grown ass woman. And that was my story. And I did it all the time. I loved charcuterie. I would eat all this yummy cheese on my charcuterie board and I would ice cream. Oh, rest in peace. I miss it so much. Um, and I knew I needed to cut it out. I knew it. I talked about it. I would plan for it. I just knew it. I just could not make myself do it. Like I could not imagine a world without dairy. And seriously, I'm laughing about it and it sounds like I'm joking, but I'm not. Like I really could not imagine. And it's like it just takes one thing to like tip it over. We were on vacation one year at Christmas. We had gone to St. Martin multiple years in a row for Christmas. Our thing was always to do charcuterie because it's a French island and they have all the French cheese and French meats and all of the great things for charcuterie. And we had this big, huge charcuterie board, and I got so sick. So sick. I mean, I was literally on the toilet for hours that night crying. So like, oh my God, it was terrible. Uncomfortable is not even a good word. Like I was dying. And that happened to me so many times. Like this was not a special occurrence. Like this had happened many, many times before. But something about this particular night, day, whatever, I think I still felt bad the next morning, got super dehydrated. Like it was this whole thing. And something about that was a defining moment for me. And I think it was just I'd hit my threshold of, okay, that's it. I'm so tired of suffering like this. I also had been going through like this wellness journey, working out and trying to eat really good. And, maybe I hadn't gotten sick like that in a really long time. It's a little blurry as far as like why this was so pivotal because I know I had felt like that before. But that next day, I had read somewhere that people who have um, dairy intolerances can sometimes tolerate goat cheese. And so I told Colby, my husband, I said, let's go find me some goat cheese. Let's just try it. I knew I liked goat milk. I knew I had had goat cheese before and really liked it. And so I'm like, let's go. So literally, we're in this French grocery store in St. Martin, Googling goat in French. And thank God, because we didn't have good internet, we couldn't search it. We couldn't figure out what it was. And thank God some of the marketing stuff had like an actual goat on it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to trust that this is goat. And so I got all this goat cheese and God bless Colby. Like he was, of course, so supportive of it because he's like, I'm tired of hearing this woman bitch about her stomach hurting all the time. So I'm going to do whatever I have to do to support this. And so that trip on vacation, I cut out every last bit of dairy outside of goat cheese while we were there. And so I came home and thought, because here's the thing about like any of these intolerances, at least in my experience, is like your body builds up a tolerance to it. So like I couldn't eat dairy, but I could have like a small amount every day without it like being detrimental. So like I would put a little bit of ranch dressing in my salad at lunch and I would put a little bit of milk in my coffee. And I think that was pretty much it. But it was like those things I could not imagine. And then like, of course but I was in this wellness journey, right? Like I was eating cleaner and eating better. So I was already kind of like on that path. So we came home and I went right back to like the same foods I was eating before, which was this little bit of ranch dressing on my salad and milk in my coffee. And I got so sick, so sick. And I thought, shit, I can't even have this anymore. Right. And so then I had to cut out all of that. And so then it became this long journey of like doing research on what I could drink, what I couldn't drink, how much shit actually has dairy in it that you don't even realize. Um, and I have been on that journey ever since. And so at this point, it's been maybe 3 years, definitely 2 years, maybe 3 years of no dairy. And, you know, for my girls who don't are trying to cut out dairy, like Fairlife, that brand Fairlife, I can have milk in my cereal, milk in my coffee. They have protein shakes. So I can still have like chocolate milk, this Fairlife brand. It's expensive, but it's worth it if you ask me. Um, but like butter, I can't have butter. I can't have cheese. I can have goat cheese. Goat cheese does not affect me. Um, all of those things. The hardest part for me has been going out to restaurants because I have to be that bitch that says, I have a dietary restriction. I need a separate menu, or like just the complicated one, which embarrasses the shit out of me. And I'm sure one of you listening totally can relate to that. Like, I don't want any attention. I would rather just like pick around and eat a salad with no dressing, knowing that it has no dairy, than tell anyone that I have like an issue. And my husband has been really supportive and like, just own it. Just say, like, what if you had a shellfish allergy and you were going to die? You wouldn't be ashamed to tell people you can't eat it. So think of it like that. So that's what I did. Still struggle with it a little bit, but it's definitely gotten easier. And I'm sharing all of this to say, like, maybe dairy is not your thing, but if you're walking around feeling like shit all the time, bloated, like when I look back on how I felt before, it was like my joints hurt. I constantly felt uncomfortable in clothes, like anything, even if they fit, it felt like so binding. And what I realize now, it was inflammation. It was inflammation in my joints, inflammation in my skin, in my face. My face looks different, like since not eating dairy anymore. Like it's just wild to me. And I didn't know how good I could feel. And I wish I would have done it years ago, years ago. But it's like you're not ready until you're ready. And so I have so many women in my life that we talk about this a lot. Like they're like, I know I don't need to eat this, but I just can't stop. And they're just not ready. But I am there like supporting and encouraging them for whenever they are because it changed my life, changed my body chemistry. It changed my my body shape, my the way my face looked, the way my body feels. My stomach never hurts, never hurts. It's so crazy. And what's also really interesting is I got to learn my body on like a whole nother level because once I got so clean and that I felt good all the time, like I could tell any little thing that I ate that bothered me, I could immediately say, okay, that's not good for me. And I'll give you an example. Like bananas give me crazy heartburn. I would have never known that had I not like had like eating bananas before when I was still eating dairy. I already felt like shit. So what was a little bit more shit? Like feeling more like shit, right? I didn't realize it was bananas, but now I can say I don't really eat bananas that often. I did eat a banana today and now I have this crazy heartburn, right? I'm just much more in touch with different things that I'm consuming and how they may make me feel. Olive oil is another one. I can't do olive oil. I can do avocado oil. And so that's what I cook with now. Things like that, that I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that those things bothered me, which bananas, I had no idea they were so acidic. So if you're having a lot of heartburn and you eat a lot of bananas, pay attention to that because they gave me a ton of heartburn. I'm trying to think if there's any other things that I know I can't have. Just processed stuff in general. And listen, I'm not sharing all of this to tell you to go and clean out your diet completely. That's not the point of this. I had been asked by some friends of mine to share this story because it, they they felt like it needed to be shared or they wanted to hear the full side of it. And so I thought it was worth sharing. And also it's a big part of my life. Like the fact that I was able to get a little bit more autonomy over how I felt was powerful. And I think that people who are in chronic pain or chronically feel bad in whatever way that comes up for you, it affects every part of your life. It affects your mood, it affects your activity, it affects your sex life, it affects the way you walk into a room, it affects the way you wear your clothes and how you stand. Like it literally affects every part of your life. And if there is something as simple as a food intolerance that you know you don't need to be eating and you can't muster the courage to make this big lifestyle change, hopefully you'll hear this and at least get a little bit of motivation. Maybe you won't change today or tomorrow, but maybe I can plant a seed of some kind for you. It took me a long time. I had a lot of seeds planted before I finally decided to try it. Maybe you'll hear this and you'll decide to try it, or maybe this will just plant a seed and you know a couple of years down the road you'll decide, whatever it may be. I felt like it was important to share because it is so impactful, and the way you feel affects everything. And it's one of the big things that I talk about when I start working with someone is, how do you take care of yourself? How's your body feel? You know, are you sleeping? Are you on any kind of medication? Like things like that, like starting from a good baseline. What is our baseline? Can we make it better? And, you know, food, in my opinion, can be medicine. And if you're eating things that are like to your detriment, they'll show up. in all kinds of ways. You just have to be willing to listen and pay attention and make changes. So I hope that you got something from this story. I also want to share my hype list because this is the hype squad. So, as far as an achievement and then an obstacle that I overcame, I would say an achievement is that day in St. Martin when I woke up and said, no more, no more. I'm not going to live like this anymore. I'm going to be kinder to my body and kinder to my mind. And I'm going to enjoy my life more than I'm enjoying it right now. That was my achievement. And the obstacle that I had to overcome and still have to overcome is the inconvenience of having to pay such close attention to the food that I eat. It does suck. I wish that I could go and get a quarter pounder with cheese from McDonald's and french fries, but it's not worth the shit that I'm going to feel like after. So it does take more preparation. It does take more intention and more prep, but it's worth it. And anytime I decide to deviate from that, I'm reminded of how worth it is, because once you have felt good, you never want to feel like shit again. Period. So that's my hype list for this episode. I am so grateful that you're here. As always, I'm so grateful for you being a part of this community and tuning in, and hopefully give me some feedback if something like from this lands for you, or if you decide to try something different for yourself. I want to hear about it. Put it in the comments or DM me on social media. I want to hear. And if you have your own story to share about your experience with this, let me know too. Maybe you can come on and share your story. I would love that. I also am a women's coach. And if you're interested in coaching in any capacity, reach out to me. Let's get on a call, a free discovery call. Let's talk about if coaching is right for you. And let me get to know you, and you get to know me a little bit. That's always, always something I love to do. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming and getting hyped with me today. I hope you will take something from this. And as always, be kind to yourself and to everyone around you today and every day. Thanks for being here.